Do a roll call.
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Here.
Commissioner Pasevich?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Daly?
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
Do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention as to the reason why last Tuesday's meeting was canceled, is that the Quincy Housing Authority, as our managing agent, did send the notice of the agenda to be posted. However, for some reason, the town did not post it, and therefore we were unable to hold our meeting. And Commissioner Savage, did send an email to me indicating, was I aware that it had not been posted? I was not aware of that. So we coordinated with the Quincy Housing Authority. They became aware that it was not posted, and therefore we said we should not have the meeting. So that's why it's being held tonight instead of last Tuesday evening, since we did make the reposting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the April 2nd board meeting? Any
Yes.
comments on that? May I have a motion for the approval of those minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of April 2nd, 2024.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none?
Commissioner Delgadillo?
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Pasevich?
Yes.
Commissioner Van?
Yes.
Richardson, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said weird. Commissioner Daly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
I was thinking the other evening, if you don't mind, just ask me for my vote last
Okay.
in the event I need to do a tie break.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 4, Tenants Association, we're going to hold off on that and do that later on in the meeting, just so that we make sure we get to some of the other items also. Item number 5, approval of the accounts payable and payments. I did notice that it will be difficult for us to vote as we have in the past on these because there's sections, and I believe, if I remember right, there's 9, 10 or 11, 12 pages of them. And then secondly, the checks are not in order. So it'd be hard to determine which check we should start with first.
As presented.
So,
As presented.
yeah, so we could basically indicate that we could vote on a total amount, the number of pages, and also as presented. So, does anybody have any questions on the approval of the accounts payables and payments?
Yeah, I noticed a different layout, and I get kind of confused trying to follow along with it.
So it's laid out now by general ledger account number.
Yeah. So do you want to vote on a by ledger account?
No, I'd rather vote on it, and I'll make a suggested motion that we approve the accounts payable and payments for pages 1 through
10.
10, in the total amount of $82,973.23 as presented.
Okay, so two questions in the meantime then. These are probably going to be easy to just clear up. On page 3, the third item down, Camelot Enterprises, is that like
Uniforms.
Uniforms,
Yeah.
thank you, I thought so.
Joe, if I may add, the description column is at the end.
Yeah, I see it,
Yeah.
I see it. That's why I said, it just said MHA clothing, and I just assumed that was uniforms. Okay. I didn't think anybody was shopping at Natalie's. Is this a dupe? Let me see. On page 4, payment date to Fenton Ewald and Associates.
That's for our calendar.
Right, the second and third items. But what I'm thinking is, I thought I saw that item.
You did. One was for the month of February, one was for the month of March. It's a monthly payment.
So the February, on page 4, it's 2 items, both each $763, but they're both dated 4/11, February books and March books.
Yeah, that's when payment is made.
Okay,
So payment was made for the month of February and payment was made for the month of March on
Okay.
April 11th.
right, thank you. And let's see. I think there's another one. NRG Business Marketing on page 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, the 6th item down. There's a description of 135, looks like 135 Main Street maybe?
That's Grace Ryder.
Oh, that's Grace, okay, right, of course, GR, thank you. And the direct payment to Quincy Housing Authority on page 7. Let's see, these are all work orders,
That's correct.
major work orders, because there are multiple ones, right? All right, thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Do I have a second to the motion that I made?
I'll make a second, please.
Commissioner Pastovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Delphi,
Yes.
Commissioner Daly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett,
Yes.
and Commissioner Richardson.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is a motion to approve the change order proposal number 1 to the contract with Speakman Excavating LLC for project 171095, septic replacement 667-1. Change orders to remove and replace sidewalk, roadway, and parking area from Marine Street for the limit of the contract paved amount as shown on the attached plan. This change order will result in an increase of $88,718.06 to the contract price, with no change to the contract time. Do I have a second to that motion?
I have a question. Go ahead, I have a question.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, what happened? First of all, it says there's a change request and contractor's change order proposal attached. I don't have that. Or am I misinterpreting something somewhere?
Rick, you're here, right?
Yep.
You want to discuss the change order, if you wouldn't mind?
Sure, it should have been changed order.
Change order is in your
I
package.
have the key.
Last item,
Yeah, show me what it looks like if I missed it.
right here, the last item in your package.
I don't have that.
It says Speakman Excavating.
Yeah, no, I don't get it. I don't have it.
Okay, I'm gonna take copies.
Okay. You can smell.
You get it? You get it?
Rick, do you want to speak to the change order?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
sure.
Not to override, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so the design of this project was done quite some time ago before, I mean, it recently, as everybody knows, it recently started, the project itself, construction. And it was actually before the winter. So at that time, typically when they they get into these projects, these larger projects, they only go as far as they need to. The limit was based on where the tie-in was to the town sewer, so they stopped short. Now, based on, I know we didn't have a bad winter, but based on the winter, the conditions down from the cut line that the engineer originally showed on the drawings, down to Moraine Street, just got worse. Everything, all the pavement, if you look at it, it alligator even more. There's some potholes that started to form. So when we first, had our pre-construction meeting here, we kicked off and we looked at that and we said, we need to go to EOHLC and see if we can, it doesn't make sense for us to pave down to that line, stop, and then later on come back and do a cold joint right on that pavement. So we put in for a change order. While they're paving, they're going to start up at the top, work down. It just made sense if EOHLC would cover it in the award that they had. It's a special award, doesn't tap into our normal formula funding, so we put into the change order.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that without seeing a plan or something like that. And the number, 88,000, I mean, I know the speaking was the low bid, but, you add 90,000 to their low bid, and,
Well, the scope of work has dramatically changed, that's why the 80,000. And again, the state has agreed to cover the cost of this because they believe that it's necessary and they think that the cost proposal is in line. So the state has approved it and they are willing to fund it. It's not coming out of our capital and it's not coming out of the Housing Authority's money either.
So Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but each time a change order of a significant amount like this, the engineers at state, EOHLC review it.
Correct.
Right, so they're looking at the contractors, they're approving the contractors, they're basically making a comparison to what it should cost compared to other projects that have been completed in the past. Am I correct on
That
that?
is correct.
so has this change order been reviewed?
Yes, been reviewed by the engineers at the state.
Can you tell me who that is?
There's also a designer who's assigned to the project, and anything that happens, such as change orders, need to go through the designer for the project, Rick.
That's right.
Can you tell me who?
GCG Associates.
GC what?
GCG
Right.
Associates.
Right. So they reviewed it and EOHLC reviewed it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is there a way I can find out who does the review?
The review engineer is up at EOHLC. His name is Bill Ketteritz.
Carrots?
Ketteritz.
Ketteritz, okay.
Just a quick question, so that review included any 30B implications as far as procurement law?
30B doesn't apply, chapter 149. But yeah, procurement law has been satisfied. Yeah, change orders fall under the procurement's been made, the low bid's been made, the bidder, it doesn't go back out to bid. It's Speakman owns it. So it's just a matter of, the change order process, presenting it, justifying it, moving it forward.
So it's essentially a paving job. that
Right.
we're talking about.
Well, no, this is the sewer
Restoration.
project. This is the sewer project.
I know, but it's the paving aspect
That's right.
of the sewer project.
Can I just wanted to make sure that, being that the sidewalk and the road will be repaved,
Correct.
I wanted to make sure that it's done, I'm sure it will be done properly, but wide enough for wheelchairs and scooters and other people with low mobility. Because what we had before tilted on one side, and I know that's part of what you were saying. But is there any way that we could make sure that, being that it's being done, it's done well?
It's
For those
going to be
residents?
replacement in kind. They're not making it any bigger. That would have been additional cost. So, but they're not going to put back exactly what's there, you know what I mean? If they're going to make sure that that's designed per 521 CMR, per 780 CMR, the building code. and the accessible code, they're gonna make sure the proper pitches are there.
Because that, the pitch was my concern, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had, when I had reviewed with the local tenant organization, they had expressed concern about that, and we've gone over that, and
good, thank you. Thanks.
I'm just hoping, and I'll take your word for it, I'm not doubting you, but just that, none of these other bidders were, maybe lost out on a chance to get the job. Maybe they included the pavement restoration. You don't know.
No, they didn't.
They didn't.
no, because
This
it was,
was
the scope, the base scope was the base scope.
Base scope.
I think the
Yeah.
plan would help you because the
Yeah, I know.
plan shows the
Yeah.
highlighted area.
They don't have it.
So
I
the
did the
plan,
packet that we
it's
just
in,
got.
she just made you a copy.
Oh, the one
She
that
just handed us
got.
that back.
So if you look,
It's right.
It's right here. Right here.
if you look at the plan on the last page, you'll see the area that is proposed to be removed and replaced. It also
Yeah.
includes the parking area on both sides.
Okay.
So
No, okay. No, thanks, I appreciate it. I take your word for it. I'm not doubting you.
So, Rick, just to, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding under a contract, when a contractor bids, they bid X, Y, Z. And then if there are change orders, most of the time, those change orders never go out to bid. And that's both in, under EOHLC, under private contracting, under the federal government, under state government, under the municipal government. And the only time in my experience that I've ever seen a change order go back out is if the current contractor is not performing properly. And therefore the state or the federal government or the municipality has lost confidence in that contractor. And therefore they may say, let's stop the job, we'll pay you for whatever you've done, but we're gonna put the bid out again.
you are correct, but there's also other elements that are considered. They consider the percentage of the change order versus the overall job, and they also consider the relevancy of what you're proposing to do under the change order. So if we came in and we said, we're proposing to re-landscape T-Rock Gardens as part of this project, they would say that project needs to go out to bid. That's a separate project with a separate scope. Expanding the paving job that's already being done is part of the paving job that's being done. So because the scope is relevant to what it was bid on, the change order is considered to be just that, a change order. So if it was a whole different scope, then you would be going back out to bid.
Okay, thank you. One last point. Any interaction with the town on this, with DPW? Do you have any?
They wouldn't have any input on this project.
It's not going to affect Moraine Street?
No.
Okay.
We asked the engineer that, Joe, just to make sure that once they got down at that juncture right there on Moraine, if there was, Speakman's used to coordinating as necessary. If he needs a detail, they'll get a detail. When they did the tie-in, the town was up here,
Right,
witnessing all of that.
of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Commissioner Delgado.
Aye.
Commissioner Casavich.
Yes,
Commissioner Daly.
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett.
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson.
Yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to review the Marshfield Housing Authority bylaws, potential vote on the Marshfield Housing bylaws. So, has everybody had a chance to review the bylaws of the Marshfield Housing Authority that were found, and that go back many, many years? And then I believe each of us was sent, emails with bylaws that were representative of other housing authorities. And we were to determine whether or not we wanted to vote on the existing bylaws and keep them in place, or modify those existing bylaws, or incorporate any of the bylaws or provisions of other bylaws of other towns into our own bylaws.
you want a motion or a discussion, or how do I do this?
So
Just
I guess we
discussion.
should take a motion initially. You want to make a motion?
Well, I don't know, how do people feel? Do you think we're ready to vote on them, or just want to have some more discussion? What do you think? Because personally, I think, I'm basically okay, and was it you, Carrie, or John, that retyped them?
John.
Yeah, that was John, yeah, thank you. There are a couple of points in here, but, because I'm ready to vote just to accept it, but I'd like to have a couple of maybe discussion or changes.
So why don't we have a motion, and then we can have a discussion if somebody seconds the motion?
So we all have a working document that when we refer to that document, we're all referring to the same thing.
So why don't we try to define the document that we're referring to?
There you go.
Okay. So,
With reference to, let me see, with reference to, I just have 12/12/23, to John Daly from Kerry Richardson. Also, John Daly wrote, thanks Colleen, I took the liberty of converting to Word. Is that the one that people have?
That's the one that was sent out in
Yeah.
December.
okay, so that's the document we'll all be,
It was not included in this packet.
it's not in the package, but
No, because it was emailed to everyone back when it was originally on the agenda.
Yeah, that's the one. I think that's the one.
If you would
do
like
we need to
copy
print
it.
out copies? Do you- I don't know if
Do
you
you want
have.
me to get, I don't have them handy, I can copy them.
How many pages is it?
I can send
It's
it.
multiple, well, it's not that many, actually, the Marshfield one is only 1, 2, 3 pages.
Why don't, if you don't mind, copy that, and in the meantime,
I got some scribbles on there though, so I don't know. That's gonna affect you.
Colleen, do you mind if we go to item number 8 while you're doing that, the annual vote on the officers?
Would you like this music?
Colleen,
Well,
Thank you.
at the end of vote on the
Thank you,
offices,
Tammy.
will that sort of be a reflection of what we vote on the bylaws?
All right, then let's go to item number 9. We'll discuss, this is the discussion on our single-family scatter units. How many are there? James, can you respond to how many single?
Scattered sites,
Yes.
we have 10.
10. Next question are, who are occupying the units, whether they're family, singles, disabled?
They're all families, and I cannot provide you with the names of the residents.
Not provide with names or addresses.
Correct.
No, I'm not asking, if I may, I'm not looking for names, that was my request for an agenda. I'd just like a list of the scattered sites, and and for each site, is it a family or is it singles? You know, just a basic thing. I'm not looking for names or anything highly specific.
Are the scattered sites listed on the website?
I believe they are, but
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I mean, you're right, you might be right, I just didn't
we'll
find it.
provide you with the list of the...
Yeah, would you please?
Yep, I'll send it out to all the board members.
That'd be great, I would appreciate that. Thank you, that's really all I want. That's all I'm looking for, thank you.
I have a list.
Okay, I'll send it out in the email.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Anything else on that?
No, that's all I'm looking for.
Thank you.
Just a yes from the
Then there's item number 10, discussion and possible vote on the use of streaming or Zoom services for the board meetings, i.e. remote participation.
I asked that to be put on because I'd like to see if we could maybe do Zoom, because I'm getting I've had people request, they want to watch the meetings, they want to be able to participate in the meetings. And the Zoom, I think you did do Zoom during COVID, did you not?
Not from here.
Not for,
We did it from home.
Right, so it was done before, so I'm wondering why that wouldn't be feasible now, since I personally, I hear a lot of requests for people that want to tune in and listen to and participate in the meetings.
So just to clarify, the board would still be here,
Right,
but we would have the potential for having a Zoom meeting. So we'd have to have some type of a setup.
right. The way the selectmen do it now, and the way other boards have done it.
Mr. Carey, isn't the public welcome to come here?
Yeah, I'll ask for comments, so I just want to get the board comments initially. Thank you.
I thought it might be a good idea to at least check with the town IT department,
I
see
already
what would
have.
be involved. Yeah, okay.
I already have checked
What
in
do
with
you
the
got?
IT department.
What you got?
I'm just interested in costs.
Yeah, and they said that basically we would need a setup. And in order to have Zoom done properly in the right venue, correctly, it would have to be probably a town hall or wherever there is a professional setup. And my concern to that, I'm all for having Zoom, I don't have a problem with that. But my concern is the whole reason we're here is for the residents. And this is where the majority, 90% of the residents reside. And the whole reason for our board to exist is for the residents.
And for the town.
But the residents is why we belong, why we're here. For the residents of
To
this
provide a
community.
service, but it's a service to the town, and the town.
I went to the IT department and I spoke to Jay.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find out the particulars because, and before we even got the notification on that, because I also was interested in that.
Mhm.
But that was my answer, that it would need to be a professional setup.
Mr. Chairman, can I address that, Colin? We are not a town entity, we are a state entity. We do not service the town of Marshfield, we serve the residents of the Commonwealth. There is a lot of confusion when people hear the name Marshfield Housing Authority. You assume that we get funding from the town, you assume we are a town entity, you assume that we are somehow linked to Marshfield local government. All of that is not true. We are a state entity. We manage state property owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to serve all of the residents in the Commonwealth. So I don't want to confuse the public to thinking that we're a town entity. We are not.
Thank you.
But the town residents can participate, they vote for the board members, the majority of the board members, and they do vote on supplemental budget items that you have taken advantage of, like the CPA funds. There is, obviously, the residents of Marshfield are also residents of the Commonwealth, and they may want to avail themselves to our services. And what we do in this town has a big impact on us. If you look at the bylaws, if you look at the statutes and the regulations, that's what our job is to create more affordable housing in Marshfield and to manage affordable housing in Marshfield. And it's obvious that we cannot do anything we want without the input from the residents of Marshfield.
I think what you said is correct, except for the fact that, we are supposed to create more affordable housing. We as a Marshfield Housing Authority are unable to create additional housing. The Marshfield Housing Trust,
Which you are a member of.
which I am a member of,
But this is not the board.
but the Marshfield Housing Authority does not create additional housing, affordable housing.
Okay, I mean, we can talk about that more, because we've done conversions, obviously.
Well, we've done conversions through the Marshfield Housing Partnership, but we have not done conversions right now through the Marshfield Housing Authority, because we're not creating additional housing through the authority.
Well, the Housing Authority has the power by statute to do those things. In fact, we're charged to do those things. Whether or not there is something in the interim or superseding right now that's blocking that mission that's something to be worked out at a much higher level, obviously. But in the meantime, people want to know what the Marshfield Housing Authority does. They want to be informed. They want to know what we're doing and what effect we're having on the community and what services are available to them. So they're asking, a lot of people are asking, why can't we, and it's not easy for a lot of people to participate by coming down in person, and they just simply want to be able to do it on Zoom, participate by Zoom. All I'm looking for is a feasibility check or study, just to ask what the cost might be and what equipment might be necessary. I'm not asking for anything else.
So I just wanted to go back. If we're charged by statute to do those things, can you pull out that statute? I read all the statutes.
Yeah.
I saw some wording that's not consistent with that.
Yeah, well, it's all chapter 121B, as you know.
Yeah, it outlines our responsibility.
Right.
It does not grant us the power or the authority to do things. We support housing, yes, that's what we do. We encourage housing, yes, that's what we do. But we don't have the authority or the power to create new housing. And if you found
I'm sorry, I don't
I'd be happy to
have
look
it.
at it.
Yeah, no. We actually have, it's actually in the statute that we have
It's not. I
eminent.
read that.
In the eminent domain, we do have eminent domain.
I dug through that statute
Okay.
to find something I could interpret that way. I couldn't find it. So maybe you've seen something I didn't, and I'd love to see it. So,
Well, 121B is what, 60 or something sections?
yeah,
Yeah.
but, I've got it all highlighted and separated out, the different powers and everything. There's a lot of subsections that are not relevant to, so you have to read it carefully.
Yeah.
And I did, and I was looking for that. I want to find that, but it's not there.
I will definitely, I'm sorry, I'm remiss, I would have brought it with me, but that's sort of outside the
Okay.
discussion.
Did I hear correctly that we have eminent domain powers?
It's in the statute,
The housing authority?
yeah, LHA's.
Would you send that to me,
Sure,
please?
yeah,
And copy all of us, please.
yeah.
Well, let's,
But the point still remains is that the townspeople.
let me address that item first. If you're gonna send it to the executive director, remember we said everything's gonna go through the chairperson?
Sure, I'm sorry, yeah.
So let's send it to the chairperson, I'll try and send it to James, and we can then decide whether or not we'll send it to everybody.
I mean, obviously, we have two different interpretations of our role, and I think it's important for us to clarify using the foundational documents. So, one person hears one thing, one person hears another thing out in the public. We don't want to mislead people. So I think it's important for us to get the governing documents, get a clear reading of them, and all be on the same page with that.
Yeah, and if I'm Chairman, I mean, we have 4 members elected, and the voters of Marshfield elected us. And they're like, why are we electing people if we have no business in what they do? How do we choose who we elect? I mean, obviously, they want to know what we're doing, they want to be involved. And that is, you won't doubt, that is in the statutes, or regulations and/or statutes, that public outreach is what we're supposed to be doing. And that doesn't mean just the tenants, that means the entire community.
But I think we do that through
You have a website.
yeah, the website. We do that through
You have a
the,
state standard form for residency, you have a state standard form for an application process. Mr. Chairman, if I may suggest, we write a letter to EOHLC and ask somebody from state government to come to the meetings to clarify what the board's responsibility is.
There you go. That's a good idea.
yeah, I think
Here.
we should
Yeah,
all
we
look
agree.
at the documents, and then if there's any confusion, we should have a legal reading of those documents, so we all understand and we're all on the same page.
Agreed.
But in the meantime, the voters are asking, this one's,
Okay.
the residents and the voters are saying, how do we learn more about it? And if there's a place for us to support you or be involved, again, they voted us in.
I understand that. Cecilia, would you take on the task of asking the town to give us a feasibility as to the cost for installing a system so, you know, we could have Zoom here?
I'm not sure the town can give us that. I think we have to put it out to bid, or get quotes.
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to hire a designer first, and then you're gonna have to put it out to bid, and then you're gonna have to find the money in your capital plan to support such a thing. And then you're gonna need to vote from the board that you think it's appropriate.
Right.
So,
And then
And are we using the funds
sustainability.
appropriately?
We don't know. We don't know yet until we find out what's involved.
No,
Any
that
other
was a
comments?
comment, not a question. Yeah.
Any other comments from the board?
Back
Okay, yes.
I'm Marilyn, I live in 4T Road. I was just wondering, from the other six of you, are you contacted often by the townspeople wanting to know what's going on here, or have these same questions that Joe says he's been asked? Do you have
I have not been
contact with?
asked.
No, you haven't had?
I haven't, and I try to speak to as many people as I can.
Right.
And
It seemed out of the ordinary, but he says, he keeps getting asked. or-
Who's he?
You,
Oh, me, okay.
you said the townspeople are asking.
Yeah, many people
But
have
these
asked.
6 people have never had a question from the
Well,
townspeople.
reason-
so one commissioner has responded so far.
If I may finish though, may I add to that? The reason why I went to town hall and spoke to the IT department was basically in response to town meeting and the feeling and the general questions that were asked. And I just thought it was prudent of me to find out, look at it in all different ways. But I personally have not been asked
What is the job of
the purpose of our board or anything
And
like
aren't they
that. I have not
welcome
been
to
asked.
come to these meetings if they wanted to? Is this open to the public?
Yes.
So I just want to respond to your question. Yes, people have asked me basically what this board is about, what we do, and sometimes people have uninformed opinions as to what our purview is, what we're supposed to do, what we do in the town. And I take it as my job to educate them that we are a board that manages the existing inventory of housing within the Marshfield Housing Authority. We're, we manage, state-supported housing for the town of Marshfield.
And the board does
Yeah,
that?
but basically it's my job, because people don't know.
Right.
People, housing authority, they don't know. They think, oh, can you get my aunt in? Can you get my mother in? I have to educate them and tell them what our role is, we have processes in place. There's a certain set of governance already established. People don't know these things.
Right.
And so it's important for us to tell them the way things
There
are.
should be a way for them to find that out, right? As long as,
Right. Well, I mean, people can read the laws, they can research things, but, I take it as my role to educate people as to what I know. And that's why I'd love to see, any documentation, maybe I've been giving people the wrong information. So I'd like to find out. But from what I see, we don't have a lot of those powers.
right,
Thank you, John.
okay.
Helen?
I'm fine.
So do you have any people in
I have a
town?
lot of people have never questioned me. I mean, I'm on a lot of committees. I do a lot of community work, the DAV, the Elks, the Poppies, the Veteran Service Office. I even work sometimes at the Veteran Service Office. And nobody's ever asked me what I do.
Okay, thank you. So to address your question, yes, people have approached me,
Right.
whether it be in the local grocery store, walking around town. My neighbors ask. I have received a couple of phone calls. So, people do question.
Well, there is the podcast that Mr. Pesovich tells everybody everything about housing and who he approves of, or what someone might have said, or what he doesn't like.
Okay, but that's not germane to, this particular question.
No, I mean, just the job of what is the housing board. He could explain it there. That's a public forum. For all the people
Well, I might
that are
get hired by
asking.
Fox News next week and I won't be able to do it anymore. So it's
Yeah,
gotta happen,
Maybe next
It's gotta be an
week.
ongoing thing.
We might be nailed to a
I'm sorry, I
cross.
don't mean to make light of it.
However,
Okay, I know that,
And part of the reason why maybe we're not getting asked is maybe some people don't know we're here.
Right. Well, they'll find us at Great Ready, right?
was there another question?
Yeah, well, it just jumps on what we've been talking about. That Joe says that he gets questions all the time, there's a lot of people interested. We've had open meetings, we've had posted meetings, nobody from the community has ever come to my knowledge. And that, you're talking about something that would cost, I imagine, quite a lot of money for an infinitesimal number of people that would watch at home, because we haven't heard from them. They haven't shown up.
Broadcasting.
They haven't shown up here at all.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
My point is that these meetings get recorded every single month, and there's more than ample opportunity for anybody in town to go on Marshfield Community Media and learn anything they want about what happens here. So I don't see the point in spending a bunch of money
With
on Zoom.
No, the point is, for me, Mr. Chairman, is that people want to participate if possible, and they're entitled to. It's a public meeting, it's open to the public, it's open to every single resident of Marshfield.
So, there's, any other comments? Yes.
Yeah, what about a hybrid meeting where if it's possible to do Zoom, if you do Zoom, that people will still be able to come and participate?
That's what it is. It's the way the select board
So
does
it's
it.
a hybrid.
but we would need the special equipment to make it a Zoom.
But I mean, these people who are making comments about what's going on here, well, they have every opportunity to be here, and nobody's stopping them.
That's just the point. A lot of them are not able to get here in person. That's the point.
So, any other comments? So we're taking two actions. James, you're writing to EOHLC to ask someone to come to
I thought he asked
the
you to do
meeting
it.
and to,
I thought James asked you to call.
oh, I thought you were writing a letter to
It
you.
really should come from the board, if the board so desires to do that.
That's what
Okay,
I heard him say.
all right, I apologize.
I can get you in contact.
All right, thank you.
And
Yes,
Yes, I have been to other public meetings, like at the library, for instance, where there's been a Zoom hookup, but not any official thing with big, audio-visual things connected to everything. It's just been somebody with a laptop, with a Zoom room set up that people can tie into from home, and you don't need, $500,000 worth of equipment to set it up. It's somebody with a laptop in this room,
So just from my limited knowledge of how Zoom works, first you need an enterprise account to be able to do that. You're gonna need reliable equipment. You gotta make sure it's put in the right place in this room. So the cost would be, non-trivial. But, in a perfect world, we should go that way, but I don't think, I just think it's not worth the cost the need doesn't seem to me to outweigh the cost and the effort.
so may I ask a question? So, when you tape this and you then have your podcast on MCM,
Well, I don't do, this is not a podcast. This is simply a town meeting, a town board meeting
Different website.
that's meeting, and it's being replayed along with all the other board and committee
So,
meetings
so when you submit, do you submit this to MCM?
all the time,
And do they play the entire video then?
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
He
but
said
they-
people want to comment.
But people want to participate in real time, and I do Zoom meetings with other organizations I'm involved with, and it's simply having a very inexpensive camera and a link to cell service in the internet, and it works. It's very minimal expense, and it works fine. And we don't know the cost, so to me, it would be like, what's the basic bare bones setup we could have, and what would it cost? It's just a simple question.
Sue, do you want to take on that task?
I can, but I already have the answer for Connie because I asked the same question. Because for work, I'm on Zoom all day long, every day. And my iPad is my Zoom equipment and my tripod, that's it. They told me no. For security purposes, for like maintaining it, historical, a whole bunch of other reasons, they said no. It cannot be done on a personal item. And it has to be stored somewhere because it has to be recorded. And that is not feasible. And that they said that MCM, Jay said that MCM is the only venue right now that we should be using.
Okay, thank you. I think there was one more comment in the back.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Ms. Camilla Murphy. I just want to know what organizations you're talking about that you belong to. I'd like to, that's just interest. You know, we like interests of the board members, so. Could you share that with us, or?
No, I don't want to shut up.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's,
Can I ask a question?
All right, we'll move
Can I ask a
on to part two.
so I'd like to know when we're going to have some city follow-up and get a cost.
Well,
Here, can I ask a quick question? I'm wondering, if you did have the Zoom, who would monitor it? So, like, if people are calling in, and say they were, you know, argumentative or disrespectful, who would be here to monitor that?
So the way I've seen that happen at other meetings is that the chair is responsible for monitoring the Zoom meeting and has the ability to shut that person off or include them or ask them to stop talking. If they don't stop talking, they can mute them.
Who's gonna do that? Well, I think it would be, just from what I've seen in town politics lately, I think that it would be not such a professional
Right.
meeting. I think you'd be deleting, shutting off comments.
And where does the Privacy Act come into that?
True.
It's just my own opinion.
Yeah,
It's been very
because those people who
confrontational.
call in, you know, who don't want to give up, like yourself, what organization you belong to. You know,
No, whenever somebody speaks in a Zoom meeting, they have to identify themselves.
yes, but how do you know who they actually are?
Well, they have to give their name and address when they speak in a Zoom meeting.
I just think a lot of
And
people would
then the Zoom, whoever's calling in,
That,
there's usually a name or a call or ID number associated with it. And of course, if somebody, and I haven't ever seen this in town politics, so as one speaker said, where someone is rude. I've seen people that have had to be muted because maybe they spoke beyond their time.
but somebody could use somebody else's iPad, a computer, giving the impression that that's who they are.
Again, the town has been doing this for years now. They did it all throughout COVID. It was done through COVID with this board. And there's a desire of people out there who are residents that want to participate. If you want to tell the residents they can't participate by Zoom, then just tell them that. What you just told them.
Commissioner Richardson,
So-
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
It's asking for a discussion and possible vote. That's what the motion is. If you want to vote on it, possible discussion and vote. Is what the motion is.
I'll take one more comment.
Joe, I don't believe you.
What? I mean,
That there's people that want to
oh,
participate.
all right.
I just don't believe you, based on your other lies.
Why'd you make it all
Table,
Let's do speaker.
Oh, yeah.
Does he look, who's the speaker? Does he identify himself?
I'm
The
sorry.
speaker didn't identify himself.
Sir, could you identify yourself, please?
My name is Gary Hillman. I live at 5 T Rock Garden,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
and I'm overeducated.
And,
So
if somebody wants it, I'll, Mr. Chairman, I'll get a petition of names of people who want to participate by Zoom. Would that satisfy somebody?
Yeah.
No, okay, so we have two choices as a board. We can either table this to get further information, or we can have a vote.
I'll table it and just get some dollar amounts.
You see the cost, and we'll do a cost benefit analysis, and then we'll vote on that.
Everybody agree? All right, we'll table it. Thank you.
For cost,
Go back
Do you still want me to get
analysis?
pricing?
Excuse me?
You still want me to get the cost, the information?
Please.
Right.
So we'll go back to item number 7, to review the Marshfield Housing Authority bylaws and potential vote on Marshfield Housing bylaws.
I'm sorry, on that last point, I need a first, a second. On that tabling that, can I have a first, a second, and a vote?
I'll make a motion, we table it.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you. Commissioner Delgado?
Yes.
Commissioner Pesavich?
Yes.
Commissioner Saley?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
And Commissioner
Yes.
Johnson?
Thank you. Item number 7. So we now all have a copy of the sample bylaws.
If you're ready, Mr. Chairman, I'll have a few fine points. How you want to proceed.
Just hold on one second, please. All right.
Oh, you want to open to discussion, is what you're saying? Since it's just,
I'll make a motion, and we'll open up the discussion.
I'll second that.
Do we need a roll vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Delgado? Commissioner Pesavich?
Yes.
Commissioner Daley?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Thank you.
if I may, under section 1, article 2, officers. It says the officers shall be chair, vice chair, treasurer, and assistant treasurer, and a secretary. I don't know how you want to designate the different positions, but where it says, and the secretary who shall be executive director, I think the wording might be a little off on that. It probably should say, and the secretary who shall be designated by the executive director, or the executive director, or their designee. So, in other words, it's saying the executive director here is the secretary, and it should be broader than that. It should say the executive secretary or their designee, who they want to be.
Well, I think that would be their role and responsibility, and if they delegated that to other people, they would still be their role and responsibility.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because we're not saying that the executive director is the secretary.
Well, we are.
It should.
That's how we are saying that the executive director is the secretary.
But it hasn't been. It's been the assistant executive.
But that's functional, that's how
That's functional
organizations
for the
work.
minutes.
The
No, it's
executive-
okay.
the
If
executive
you
director is
think
the
that covers it,
secretary.
I'm not going to argue. I just thought usually that's how it's written, is that it has to be a designee. That's fine. If you think it covers it, it covers it.
So I would like to make one comment on that also, section 1, where it says officers, the officers of the authority shall be a chair, a vice chair or treasurer, an assistant treasurer, and the secretary who shall be, and I would insert the word the executive director.
As long as it's clear that he can that person can designate
I
somebody
think-
if they're not here.
right.
If they're not here, we'll only do it.
Correct.
Right.
But I believe could be somewhere else in here. I know it's in some of the other bylaws. Okay, how about item, section 2 under the chair? Any comments on that?
Just going back to the previous sections, some of the other bylaws that I've seen, I think, I mean, this locks us in to have all those positions. And we, you know, there are times where we don't have enough people to do all those things. I'm just trying to think of the wording that I've seen. Shall, let's see.
Include but not be exclusive of, something similar to that.
Yeah, something like that.
I agree because of at the moment, Helen, you're the treasurer. How many
Yes.
checks have you written?
I don't write checks, I
Or
have
signed?
I signed them when they are
That's
signed.
right, I'm sorry, signed. Okay.
I mean, we can designate people, but, you know, I think we have more flexibility in some of the other bylaws.
In some of the other smaller agencies, there's a chair, a vice chair, and the treasurer.
That's it.
Mhm.
I don't think we have enough people to,
Yeah,
require-
assistant treasurer.
yeah.
So should we strike assistant treasurer?
I would feel better taking out assistant treasurer. I'm sorry.
What is the role of an assistant treasurer?
Yes, they're
Just fill in when you're not around, it's like a vice chair, is that what it is? So, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to leave it there, I don't,
But if Helen isn't here, don't you have the responsibility as chair
that's the question.
To sign check?
to sign checks? Yeah.
It's the word shall. When you say shall,
Is a,
you're locking yourself in.
yeah.
So,
It says the chair shall sign all.
Can we replace that with can be instead of shall?
No, we can't do that, can
well, I think if we just take out assistant treasurer,
That's fine.
you know,
Yeah.
we
we?
do.
No, because it would be funny because it would open it up into interpretation, you know, can be.
Well, but shall is requiring us to have an
Right,
assistant
it is.
treasurer. We
But
don't.
can be is like really, wow, talk about opening a can of worms. I can imagine how that would go.
I have no objection to eliminating assistant treasurer, since there are other individuals in the organization who can sign checks.
But it doesn't say that. It says under section 4, the treasurer shall sign all orders and checks.
Right, but not the treasurer is doing that already.
Yeah. So,
We're not questioning the treasurer, we're questioning the assistant treasurer.
right. But you're saying if the treasurer is not here, somebody else can sign, and that's not true according to the bylaws. According to the
The chair and
bylaws,
vice chair can sign.
where does it say that?
You know, it doesn't.
Doesn't say that.
Doesn't say it?
No. So
Shouldn't.
I may take back. So what would happen if we didn't have enough board members to fill the assistant treasurer? It just
It just wouldn't get done.
wouldn't be filled.
You have a vacancy.
Right, have a vacancy. So if we leave the assistant treasurer in there,
No harm.
there's no harm.
The assistant, under section 4, the assistant treasurer shall perform the duties of the treasurer in the absence or incapacitation, you know, on and on. But if we add the assistant treasurer or chairman shall perform the duties of the treasurer in the absence.
Well, I think there's a reason why they separate some of these duties though. And I would want to consider the legal arguments why they're separated. There's got to be a reason why they're separated.
Well, the chair has the authority to...
Yeah, but you can sign contracts and deeds, but not without the board's vote. He can sign contracts, deeds, and other instruments made by the authority. If the chair was just signing deeds and contracts by himself, that would be a real problem. It says the authority votes and designates the chair to do those things. And there's probably a legal reason, and I can't think of it right now, pardon me, but why the duties are separated, why the chair can't sign. And that's probably a question for ethics, I'm guessing. So,
I don't know, I think, in the past, the chair is not signing the check, the chair is co-signing the check. All checks are signed twice.
where does it say that?
What do you want to sign?
That's the process. I mean, Helen doesn't sign the checks, just Helen.
Well, we're talking about the bylaws,
Okay.
we're not about what you did. Sometimes things were done that, So, I mean, I have no problem with this, all these sections right here, just these first 5 sections. There's nothing, no harm done. There's a backup mechanism in there. And you don't have an assistant secretary because the chair is vacant or something, or the assistant treasurer. It's just empty.
Any other discussion on that? So we could take a vote on that section alone as to whether or not you want the officers of the authority to be a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, an assistant treasurer, and a secretary, who shall be the executive director.
That motion to accept that.
Leave it as, basically leave it as is.
Okay. I don't object to that.
Okay, so I don't think we need to take a.
With the added of the word "the."
Yes, I think you've already inserted that. Okay. Section 2, any comments?
Comical.
Seeing none on section 2, we'll go to section 3. Any comments?
Some of the comments from
I
the
didn't-
audience.
I didn't hear.
No.
Section 3, on the vice chair, any comments on section 3?
No question.
No? Okay, section 4, any comments?
No question, no comment.
Okay, I just highlighted this, that it says that the treasurer and assistant treasurer shall give bond for the faithful performance of their duties.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So-
Do we need to get Alex on that?
So, are we doing that in other authorities? No. So do we want to do that here? My experience in life has been that people have stolen from organizations. Small organizations, churches, etc. And unfortunately, it occurs. As a board member, I know I've previously said that I think we should have our treasurer and assistant treasurer bonded, just in the event that something happens.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you have an officer's policy.
We have a
Officer's policy.
director's
Yes.
and officer's liability,
Yes.
but I don't think that
I believe it covers theft.
the fiduciary responsibilities of the treasurer and
It covers theft.
so let's check that out.
We can get you a copy of the policy.
So, we'll check that out.
I thought we voted on that like a year ago.
Right. So does anybody object to leaving that clause in section 4? Okay. Go on to section 5. Any comments on section 5? Only comments I have is if you go to the third line towards the end, can we strike the word "they"? So it says, and affairs.
Well, the word "they" is used in other places too.
Right, I would
It's,
strike-
grammatically, it's acceptable.
I would strike it, from my opinion, I would strike it in line 3 and line 5.
What would you replace it with?
See if she,
Is there well, on one, it says, I'm going to read this. The executive director of the authority shall be the ex officio secretary and shall have general supervision over the administration of its business and affairs.
Oh, I see.
Comma,
Yeah.
Sub,
That sub looks like it was an editing comment maybe, or substitute. What does a sub dash, sub hyphen signify?
so I'm not sure if that should be in there.
Right.
Sub,
I believe that statement is required.
So do we just
Okay.
take out sub and take out the parentheses?
I think take out the word sub, leave the parentheses in there.
Put and shall be charged with the management, as opposed to he shall be? Just and shall be?
Well,
No, doesn't make sense, they shall be. Makes more sense.
No, if it's in reference directly to the executive director, and we're charging that executive director with management of projects,
I would agree. Take out the word sub, take out the hyphen, take out the parentheses, insert the word and in lieu of he, and then semicolon maybe, and then strike out the word they, and then shall, because you're referring back to the executive director.
right.
So you should say, then shall have care and custody of all funds.
So, and shall be charged with the management of the project authority, semicolon, shall have care and custody of all funds,
Right.
and shall deposit the same in the name of the authority in such banks as the authority may select.
Correct.
That does it. Okay.
You want to take the second page way out too?
And then if you want to put in a semicolon, take out the second they.
Yep. Shall keep regular books of the account showing receipts and expenditures, and shall render to the very each regular and request an account of the transactions, which is what we did.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay? All right. Any further discussion on section 5?
Well, this other paragraph, compensation determined by the authority. And then there's that question of bond again. I guess that's probably required. That'd be my guess.
Right. So I would, again, strike in, under the compensation of the executive director shall be termed or society, and I would take out the word they, and just say, and shall give bond for the faithful performance of his duties, but a member of the authority serving as secretary and executive director in a temporary capacity shall serve without compensation other than the payment of necessary expenses.
Is that second, is that they and they referring to the board?
It refers to the executive director, and that's why I think it should stay.
Director. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Well, that's the thing, is that where you have a comma after authority, I think John's point is a good one, because it almost makes it look like the they
That's what,
Is the way the board is.
right.
refers to the authority.
But I think what we'd like to have, I mean, the ideal is that it would be the executive director shall give bond, right?
Right.
That's what we want, so I think we just have to clarify that.
And how are we going to do
I
that?
know, yes,
So I would say,
Who shall?
and
Who
the
shall give
executive-
bond?
And the exec, so instead of the word they, we would insert, and the executive director shall give bond for the faithful performance of his duties.
That would make it real clear, yeah, that would make no doubt.
Yeah, that's fine. Redundant, but makes it clear.
Right. And should we say for the faithful performance of his/her duties in the event we have a female executive director?
I think executive director is.
Oh, is there a he in there?
No, it is.
You could
On
just
the
say,
second line.
of said duties,
Oh, okay. Of their duties.
of said duties.
That's- yeah.
Said, thank you for the suggestion. Said duties, or?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Of said duties. instead of he or she. It can be of said duties, whoever's
I would say their,
commanding those
I
duties.
would say their duties, T-H-E-I-R.
Okay, that's fine.
Colleen, I'm sorry.
What
What
are we going with there?
Everybody-
said?
Does everybody agree with the word there, T-H-E-I-R?
I'm good.
I hear a yes.
I was just trying to come up with
That's okay. We'll work it in some.
We'll insert the word there. Thank you. Section 6. Anybody have any comments?
Is she leaving?
Yes. Yes, she told me she has to leave.
Thank you.
Would you, Colleen, just note that. Thank you. The only comment I have on section 6, again, is the third to last line is the word "they." You want to substitute or leave "they" in there?
I think in this case it works, in my opinion. It works okay.
That's right. Anybody else have any comment?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. And then item, section 7, any comments? Hearing none, we'll go to section 8. Any comments on 8?
Nope.
Do we want to insert a month in there, or do we just want to leave it as annual meeting?
We'd rather leave it as an
Yeah, I
annual.
think in the past, things have come up and maybe delayed a month,
For different
so as long as
reasons.
you, should be a year from whenever it starts.
Okay.
Well, actually, the annual meeting, typically, boards are reorganized after elections.
Right.
So it probably should be like the first meeting following an election. Because that's typically when the organizations are done. And it can happen anytime during the meeting. It can be the first item, the last item.
Should we want to be tied to an externality, or do we just want to decide the date from the vote?
Whatever day is the election, from the most recent town election, because that's when the board members potentially change. And that's when you have to reorganize, because you could have a change in membership.
I prefer annual, gives us more flexibility
Yeah,
with the bid.
But the annual meeting could happen, or it has been happening prior to elections. And you could have a replacement occur.
Handle it.
You'll
But then
have-
we've had situations like COVID, you know, I mean, we have situations come across. I don't see any reason to change annual to anything very specific. I mean, I don't know how the rest feels.
John, you want to leave it at annual?
I think annual,
Yeah,
I agree with the flexibility here.
I prefer the flexibility if we can have it. Are you all right with that?
Flexibility what?
I would prefer to leave it, just the word annual there, to give us flexibility.
Rather than just per se annually. Right? Just make it annually. And then you have flexibility, but then again, it's, you know,
Shall be elected annually.
annually by the authority.
That's fine. Everybody agreeable to that?
That gives you lots of
All
flexibility.
right. Did you get that, Colleen?
Annually, yes.
So we'll now say, Chair, Vice Chair, Treasurer, and Assistant Treasurer shall be elected annually by the authority from among the members, etc. All right. Section 9, any comments? Okay. Section 10, any comments?
Nope, not for me.
So this says, I'm just questioning that, it says the authority may from time to time employ such personnel as it deems necessary to exercise its powers, duties, and functions as prescribed by the redevelopment housing authority law of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Is that correct, James?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Section
Section
10.
9.
Section 9?
Yeah, it's
10.
10, section 10, the last. I think that's, it looks like this was like left over from the old, this was an action set of bylaws anyway.
I can see how it would be there because the statutes deal with redevelopment and LHAs. So they mention both in the statutes. So I can see how that redevelopment would get in there.
Yeah, it should not, it should be as prescribed by the EOHLC.
Okay, so we'll change that to
As is prescribed by,
EOHLC.
You say prescribed by law.
well, it says all of the laws of the Commonwealth applicable. So I would say as prescribed by the EOHLC and all of the laws of the Commonwealth applicable.
Is everybody agree?
EOHLC regulations,
No, it might not,
because it's not, we're not, it can't be prescribed by guidelines. You can't change personnel by a guideline, I don't think.
how about prescribed by law or regulation?
Yeah. Applicable law and regulations. That's nice and simple. What do you think, Kelly?
So just propose the wording that you.
Okay, duties and functions as prescribed by applicable laws and regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. As prescribed by applicable laws and regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
It should end there, because otherwise it'll be redundant.
Oh, that's,
I think you have to include EOHLC in here,
okay.
because, right, we're not hiring an executive director according to the laws of the state of Massachusetts. We're hiring an executive director according to
Additional
EOHLC.
personnel, though. It says it's pretty broad when it applies to all possible additional personnel, as prescribed by all applicable law, EOHC regulations, and all other laws, applicable laws and regulations. You don't even have to say Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
I think legally, we're bound by DHCD, we can say that. Guidelines but that counts as a regulation. So anything that.
No, it doesn't. No, a guideline's not a regulation.
Yeah, but we're bound, anything we're bound by is a regulation. If we're bound, a guideline means you can do this or you don't, or you may not do this.
And a regulation says you must.
Right, so that's what we're bound by, and that's what we have to, we don't have to, I mean, we don't have to say we're bound by guidelines, because we're not bound by guidelines.
Right, but I'm not saying we need the guidelines in there.
No,
No, I'm just saying,
I think covers everything.
I think saying by EOHLC regulations and all the applicable laws and regulations.
Because there might be regulations that are not, from.
Well, there could be a federal something, there could be another applicable law or regulation. So to simplify it, I would suggest it's prescribed by EOHLC regulations and all other applicable laws and regulations.
I mean, I don't have an objection to that, I just think you don't need to reference executive officer, housing.
Oh, you don't want that? Oh, okay. Well, that was Kerry's suggestion. Whose suggestion? That was Kerry?
Yeah, authority may from time to time employ such personnel as it deems necessary to exercise power. James, do you know if we need that in there? Do we need EOHLC in this particular section?
I think you should have the EOHLC regulations and applicable laws, I think that says it all.
I think so too. Anybody?
I'm just worried that there might be other regulations that come from something outside executive office of,
They could be laws then.
no, there might be regulations.
Only EOHLC regulates public housing. So who else regulates? All of our regulations come from
There might
EOHLC.
be constraints, like, I don't know.
But if we just,
Okay,
but if we put in EOHLC regulations, then we wouldn't be constrained by any other entity other than EOHLC and the Commonwealth laws.
Well, yeah, but we also wouldn't have the authority to act on anything outside of those, even if another regulation would allow us to. But it just narrows. There is.
Yeah, but, you know, if applicable laws is a catch all, and if you're mandated to do something by them.
And, you know, they might change their name again.
Oh, that's, we'll just amend it. Okay, I'm fine with that suggestion.
Are you,
My suggestion is to leave, you know, EOHLC out. But I don't object to having it. I just don't think it's necessary. And it's such a minor point, I don't want to.
yeah, I think,
Well, that would make it extremely simplified, if may, Mr. Chairman, just to say, we will exercise powers and duties as prescribed by applicable regulations and laws.
Applicable law or regulation of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Basically, we can only do what's legal.
Well, you know, that's the catch-all
I just want
phrase.
to make sure our executive director is comfortable with
Yeah, I
that.
think it's
because
fine.
it
I
does-
think it's fine. I mean, all of our regulations come from EOHLC, but it's fine. I don't think there's anyone else that governs public housing, but
Everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, basically, are we taking out the redevelopment housing,
Yeah.
and that's it?
No, it's functions as prescribed by EOHLC regulations and all of our applicable
That's
laws.
not- That's not what John said.
No, that's,
Okay, so take out EOHLC, powers and functions are prescribed by all applicable laws and regulations.
For the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
That I'm comfortable with, basically just taking out the redevelopment housing and leaving everything.
Colleen, would you read to us what we think that we have in there?
Duties and functions as prescribed by EOHLC. Applicable laws or regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Now, I don't think we have EOHLC in there.
We took it out. Okay. So now it will read all applicable laws or regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
there you go.
That catches it all pretty much.
Okay.
I would just take out all.
Take out all?
Well, all is safe, because, I mean, there is, I'm sorry, there are cross references sometimes in laws, you know.
Right. Just for everybody who is here, this is extremely important because we as a board have to follow these bylaws. And so although it's taking us time to get through them, it is necessary that we do this and we have a discussion so that we all agree that this is what we want to be abided, to abide to.
Tedious but necessary.
So let's read back again, as prescribed by applicable laws and regulations.
Of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay, you can put that.
Everybody agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. We're on to Article 3, Section 1, General Provision. Any comments on that? I do want to comment at the last two sentences. It said, I'll read it, the last sentence. In the event that the date of any annual or regular meeting as provided in any such resolution shall fall, I think it should say on Sunday instead of one Sunday, or a legal holiday. The meeting shall be held on the next succeeding secular day at the place and time designated in the resolution. So, just someone explain to me what that means.
Yes, there was a regular
I believe it
schedule-
means there's a
scheduled
regular
meeting.
scheduled meeting on the first Monday of the month. The first Monday of the month is a holiday, you're gonna have a meeting on the second Monday of the month.
But not on a religious holiday. That's a secular
Or legal.
day.
Right.
It's a non-religious holiday.
But, yeah, non-religious, but what happens if it's Memorial Day?
Legal holiday, it says legal
Well-
holiday.
I think the definition of secular,
Or a legal holiday? So we're all okay with that?
So this whole section of meetings, I mean, that's not how we schedule our meetings, right?
You have a regularly scheduled meeting.
We have a regularly scheduled meeting, not dictated by the bylaws. So I think we kind of have to reword this whole thing.
I think it's fine because it says if we want to change a meeting date or location, we can have a discussion and vote.
But
That's in there.
But this meeting, we had to change the time and location without a vote because we had public.
Well, that's a state law. So the state law superseded.
So we want to give ourselves and, the executive director / secretary, the flexibility to move around, right?
Right.
But that's considered an extenuating circumstance too by.
But it's automatic, it's basically automatic. In other words, a meeting was postponed by law, by state law, it was postponed. And the chairman suggested a new date, he actually polled us on a date or checked with us all, and nobody had an objection, so it got posted. It was handled properly in that matter, so.
And we don't have annual meetings, we have annual meetings.
So may I make a suggestion on section 3? Do you all want to go back, rethink this section, and then come back to the next meeting with suggestions on what we want to do on section 3?
So section 2 and 3, right? Would it be 2 and 3?
Well, 2, I think we came to.
You mean Article 3?
This is, I'm sorry,
Article 3.
I apologize. Article 3.
Okay.
Section, Article 3. We'll just come back with suggestions.
Okay, hold off. I motion to hold off on Article 3.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner
Any
Delgado?
discussion?
I'm sorry.
No further discussion from me.
Commissioner Delgado?
Yes,
Commissioner Passavage?
Yes.
Commissioner Daly?
Yes.
And Commissioner
Yes.
Hutchinson?
Thank you. Okay, Article 4, amendments.
No problem, I have no problem with that.
So, and on the first one, it says amendments to the bylaws. The bylaws of the authority shall be amended only by resolution adopted by the affirmative vote of at least 3 members of the authority at a regular or special meeting held after 7 days' notice in writing of the substance of the proposed amendment shall have been sent to each member.
That works.
So is that good for everybody?
How about instead of the substance is kind of broad. How about of the amendment or the proposed amendment?
So I'm sorry, would you please say that again?
On the third line of that amendments clause, it said 7 days notice in writing of the substance of the proposed amendment. I mean, that's just superfluous.
I don't think so. I think if you think about it, so if someone wants to make an amendment and they send it out in the substance, and someone else, you read that and you say, well, don't want to strike that word, so you're changing the amendments.
Well, yeah, that would be part of the discussion.
Right, but you couldn't have that discussion, this would,
No,
Just to get to that
what I'm saying, no, I get your point, but when the amendment comes before the board, that's when the discussion and then changes to the amendment are offered. You know what I'm saying? I just think the term of the substance of just a little superfluous, because you're gonna be sent the amendment. You're not gonna be sent, hey, I think we ought to consider, you know, da-da-da-da. You're gonna be actually sent an amendment, a proposed amendment.
it's kind of a,
I feel that the substance is necessary.
necessary.
Yeah.
I think if we take the substance out, we're locking in that you can't change, you can't make a different amendment at that meeting to vote on.
Well, it also is an issue because you're getting a notice by email or however, and it says, well, I want to address an issue, and the issue and the substance of the matter is, you know, it doesn't give the reader or the board member a true idea of what the intent is unless you know what the actual word is.
It's just, to me, it seems like if we say you have to send the amendment to all the members before voting on the amendment.
Yeah, before you meet to vote,
Right,
to meet to
you
discuss
vote.
it. You have to meet and discuss it.
Right. So then, if the amendment you vote on has changed at all, it's invalid because you didn't send that amendment out to all the members 7 days prior. It's
Sustaining
Well,
issue.
if it was, it gives you too much flexibility, is what I'm trying to say. If you send a concrete proposal and amendment, which can be discussed and then adjusted at the meeting to discuss that amendment.
It doesn't say that.
Well, I mean, that's what a meeting is for. That's why you vote on it, because you vote to approve it in whatever final form you arrive at.
But isn't the substance the subject
That's
of the proposal?
That's what I mean, it's too broad.
Right.
It's too broad.
That's-
An amendment deals with a specific clause within our bylaws. And if you're talking about a specific clause in the bylaws, you better be crystal clear about what you want to do.
I understand your point. I think what you're saying is that someone could just say, here's the substance versus here's the actual word.
Right. Like, we need to change the board.
But then you don't have to vote on it. You can vote no.
Right. Because there's no discussion.
You want to kind of have a sense of what you're going to be voting on, but you lock yourself in if you can't change it after that.
Well, again, I think either way, you accomplish the same end result. Okay, and if you don't want to change it, to me, it looks so superfluous, that's all. If you don't want to change it, I'm not going to argue that. I don't know how you,
Cecilia, do you want to leave the word substance in?
I think it's important.
John, you want to leave it in? I agree, let's leave it in.
okay.
All right. So now that's the end of the bylaws. Only addition I would add is that I would put a line in there, Colleen, that says end of bylaw. So that we know that there's no other provisions in the bylaw.
And you'll come back to the Article 3.
So we've decided basically to table one section of the bylaws. My recommendation is that we don't vote then on the bylaws tonight until we come back to the meeting and review the section,
Article 3.
Article 3 on the meetings. However, I also want to ensure that we take a vote on the officers tonight. So do we all agree that we can vote on the officers since we've agreed on Article 2 of our bylaws, even though we haven't affirmed the bylaws this evening?
I think it would make sense to vote on our officers when we ratify it. Because we haven't officially ratified it, and so we should wait till we ratify it and then appoint the officers.
Was there a change in the, there was no change in who the officers are?
In that section.
You did not change anything, so these are your existing bylaws. So you can vote based on your existing bylaws.
You also have a board member who's
We
on.
also
So you
have a
could
board
wait.
member that's not present, so it may behoove us to like
Postpone the vote.
postpone that. Is everybody?
Yeah, that's good.
Are you in agreement to postpone?
I am,
So that whole motion will be tabled until next.
mostly because Helen isn't here at the moment.
So then, I'm sorry, I have to get back to the agenda. May I have a motion to table the annual vote on officers of the Board of Commissioners for the Marshfield Housing Authority?
Motion to table the vote pending the full adoption of the bylaws.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any
Commissioner Dudley?
further discussion?
Commissioner Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Peskovich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I apologize, I'm going to take 2 minutes just to make sure I'm not missing anything here.
Do the plans and report.
Yeah, I'll have to go back to that. All right, we'll go back to item 4, the Tenants Association.
Helen usually gives the,
Anybody want to report?
oh, you do?
The notice.
Okay.
Patty Danner, treasurer of the association. We just want to thank James enormously for our new refrigerators. Yay! And also, bingo's still going good, and nominations for our board closes tomorrow. Our election is Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and then we'll be sworn in at the June meeting here, this June meeting. Okay?
Now, the meeting will be, I'm sorry, it will be at Grace Riders.
The June meeting is at Grace Ryder.
The what?
The June meeting is at Grace Ryder.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay. Glad you said that.
Yes.
And also, we're planning a pancake breakfast in June.
Nice, oh, great.
And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to recognize John Kemet, who, his persistency, after we were denied 3 times on the grant for the refrigerators, John kept driving aggressively against the denials to see that we were able to obtain the grant. So a shout out to John.
Thank you, John, appreciate the extra effort there. Any other comments from the tenants? Yes. Could you identify yourself, please?
Yep, my name is Robin Dunn. I live at 13, building 13. Mr. Peskovitz, I would like to start by saying that you, as a commissioner on the board of T-Rock, here at T-Rock, for the elderly and disabled, you do nothing but bring anxiety and negativity to all here. you had the audacity to write on a public forum to a disabled person, me, that I'm a spiteful, bitter hag. How dare you, and who do you think you are? My grandchildren, my children, all of my family and friends read this on this public forum. They were utterly disgusted and shocked that you're a commissioner on this board. Can you explain to me and everyone here tonight, why would you even want to be on this board? There is much more than the financial aspect. Now I'd like to address the board. For a year now, we the residents have had to endure Mr. Pescovich's continuous malice, hatred, and disdain. He has no respect for the residents or our executive director, James, or even you as fellow board members. Please, we respectfully and urgently ask you to do something. Please. Thank you.
May I please ask you to submit a copy of that?
Oh, it's funny.
I have a statement too. It's a little lengthy.
I'm sorry, could you?
Donald Clark, 18 T Rock Gardens. Dear Marshfield Housing Authority Board members, I would like to propose that the board as a whole take action against Commissioner Pescovich for his behavior as an elected official of the Marshfield Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and take the case to the Marshfield Select Board. We, the tenants of T Rock Garden, back in August of 2023, did a petition to have Mr. Pescovich removed from the board. By a vote of 2 to 1, he was allowed to remain on the board. I do want to remind the board that all 3 members of the Select Board found Mr. Pescovich responsible for misconduct in office, and the Select Board defined misconduct as behavior both while on duty and during off hours. The Select Board also handed down a formal warning to Mr. Pescovich to stop that type of behavior and to tone it down. Since that hearing on August 31st of 2023, Mr. Pescovich has done the complete opposite and has continued his vile and slanderous remarks towards the Executive Director, the Board of Commissioners, and the tenants. Mr. Pescovich has demonstrated since being a commissioner that he has no real interest in working with the board and the Executive Director to effectively help manage the Marshfield Housing Authority and the betterment of the community as a whole. Some examples of this is twice Mr. Pescovich wanted not to sign a document that if it weren't signed would have stopped funding for the Marshfield Housing Authority. At last month's board meeting, there was 3 votes on the fiscal 2025 budget. All of the board commissioners received their packets and had ample time to review the information. Mr. Pescovich voted no on all 3 votes and said he didn't have time to review the information. A board member asked him to look at it now, and Mr. Pescovich said no. If Mr. Pescovich is to be believed that he didn't have time to review the information, why didn't he abstain from the vote? By voting no, it demonstrates that he had enough information. He continues to publicly state that the money that was transferred from the Marshfield Housing Authority accounts to the Marshfield Housing Trust was done so illegally and without his authorization, even though it has been explained to him multiple times that the money was never the property of Marshfield Housing Authority and was only being held. He continues to state that the Marshfield Housing Authority should build new housing, even though once again it has been explained to him on multiple occasions that is not permitted by law for the Marshfield Housing Authority to create new housing. Does this sound like a board commissioner who is trying to effectively work with his fellow board members and the executive director? I think not. Mr. Pescovich has done nothing but try to cause divisiveness and to undermine the board and the executive director. It shouldn't have to be explained multiple times on such matters only for Mr. Pescovich to go on his podcast and blast the board and the executive director. some examples of his behavior towards the residents. He continues to state that the petition against him in the video clip that was played at his hearing was lies and it was fabricated, and has twice stated that this was slander and for us to be careful or we could be sued. He has publicly said that a fellow board member wrote a letter to the select board stating that they believed Mr. Pesovich wasn't being contrite about his formal warning, and Mr. Pesovich's response to that board member was, "Screw you." Recently, he called up Executive Director King Louie. His most recent attack on a resident, Robin Dunn, on Facebook was a post by Robin about how she was against Eric Kelly for the select board, and Mr. Pesovich responded by calling her a bitter, spiteful hag. The post was removed but was captured before it was. This goes directly against the formal warning he was issued. At town meeting, Mr. Richardson went to the microphone to voice his concern over the MBTA zoning law and how we could possibly lose funding for T-Rock Garden and Grace Ryder. I was sitting very close to Mr. Pesovich, and Mr. Richardson had to walk by Mr. Pesovich, who leaned out and said, "Mr. Richardson, you're a liar. Mr. Pesovich, you are a vile and disgusting person who has no interest in trying to effectively help manage the Marshfield Housing Authority by working with your fellow board members and the executive director. Instead, your motives appear to be nothing more than a conspiracy-driven tirade to cause divisiveness. I once again respectfully ask that you resign for the good of the Marshfield Housing Authority. Your behavior is reprehensible at best. I ask the Board of Commissioners to strongly take action to go to the Select Board about Mr. Pesovich's behavior. Respectfully, Donald Clark, 18 T-Rock Gardens.
Are there any other tenants' comments tonight? Yes.
Yeah, it grieves me to say this out loud. I never thought I would have to. But I've been disappointed in the other board members, besides Mr. Pesovich, in not standing up more for us, the residents, and not calling him to task for his behavior and his attitude. And it just seems like, you know, every time he doesn't want to comment on some confrontation, it's just let go and gone by the wayside. On his podcast on TV, he has said really vile, hateful stuff. And as a member of the Board of Commissioners, I think he has a responsibility to separate that hat from his podcast hat. And he has declared things on his podcast that are outright lies, and nobody has called him on it. And in this board, I mean, everything is kind of, it seems like it's just past the buck and very passive about not confronting Joe on how he has hurt this community. That we have had a sense of community here. We have been so grateful for James and his whole staff, and we don't want to risk losing any of these people. They are precious to us and to our functioning. And it seems like he has thrown a monkey wrench into the works without being called on it, without being confronted. And maybe this has happened behind the scenes and we haven't known about it. I grant you that might be true. But we need some support from you guys. And it feels like we don't have it.
Mr. Richardson, I was wondering, is there a
I'm
code
sorry,
of
could you identify yourself?
Marilyn Ryan from 4 T-Rock Garden. Is there a code of ethics or a code of conduct to be a board member? I mean, is there anything expected of you, you know, you're around town? Like, you can't go downtown in your Speedo or anything. I mean, wouldn't that be brought up later at a board meeting like Mr. Richardson? You really shouldn't go around town like that. So, I mean, is that the behavior of a board member to have everyone, or
So are you making,
disrespectfully talking about this place, all the tenants, every disabled, elderly, homeless person in here, and striking words against the executive director? It's like a comedy show. He makes fun of everything that he's a part of. I don't think he has an interest or even gives a shit about any of us.
may I ask you, are you making a suggestion that we should adopt a code of conduct?
I don't know, I just think you all
Yes,
behave
she's
like
making that
So
suggestion.
you are making that suggestion?
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Wouldn't you have one already?
Colleen, would you?
I mean, just the way you respectfully behave around town, all of you, I don't think I've read your names in the paper or seen any vile action or police. I've been here a while. You all seem very respectful. I don't think there's call for that behavior and being a board member of the Housing Commission.
Thank you.
I have one thing to say too.
Just 1 second, please. Colleen, would you please make a note so that for our next meeting, put on the agenda that we will discuss a code of conduct?
I think he should resign.
Could you,
James, you do believe,
There is a code of ethics from the OHLC for board members.
yes.
and may I ask any of the board members who would volunteer to, I guess, find out what the code of conduct is from James. And then secondly, draft the code of conduct that we could review at the next meeting. You do that? Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's a backyard cookout or something, or in your own living room. When you're in public, at the local bar room, or downtown, or on the town hall steps, or on a podcast, that's for everyone in town to see. He's making this place sound like it's a fiasco, a big joke. Like there's nobody running things, they don't know where the money's gone, it's missing, no one does this, no one does that. It's a big, they're all paying attention to him, and according to him, he has people that are asking, what do they do down there?
Okay, thank you.
So,
My name's Leanne. I'm going to keep where I live anonymous because of my own domestic violence situations, and if this is podcasted or publicly broadcasted. I'm new. Hi. I think this is the best community ever. But I also want to know why Mr. Pesovich doesn't answer anybody else's questions. And I feel like you guys are all compelled to answer everything he asks. But then a resident asks a question and he doesn't want to answer it.
I
It's
don't
okay,
want
and it's swiped off. He should be, you guys, I see you guys all answer his questions. He stops, you answer, he stops, you answer. But as soon as a resident who lives in the community asks a question, it's okay. Mr. Pesovich, can you tell me, I'm new if I'm out of line by asking this question, you can tell me, but why can't you answer the residents' questions? Sir, you're not.
No comment.
I know, but you should though, because you're
No, I
part of
shouldn't.
the,
he doesn't want to be a board member.
I don't have to.
you don't want to help the community.
Right.
That's not
You
what I
just
said.
want to hinder.
I said I don't have to answer
I'm
off-the-cuff
asking you-
ad-lib questions. You want to talk to me one-on-one
No,
after a
no,
meeting? That's fine.
we're all, this is a public meeting,
But this
right?
is not how
Yes.
meetings,
Because I
public
meant-
meetings
I-
are run.
Watched everybody at that table answer every question you've asked.
Because I'm a board member, I'm an elected board member.
But why
The
is it
chairman can explain
you
it to
haven't
you.
answered anybody else's questions?
I don't understand.
It's a two-way street.
No comment.
Because it's a public.
This is an elected public board, and this is a public meeting. And
Elected
there are
under
ways,
testimony.
public
Nobody
meetings
runs
are
against
conducted
you.
according to state law.
So if I may, Commissioner Pacevic does not have to make a comment. he can say no comment. And then, you know, we have to accept that.
And he'll comment on his podcast.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
He'll comment on his podcast.
Later.
About
Tune
us.
in.
That's it,
So,
he just doesn't have to.
You know, that, I won't, I'll have no comment.
Freedom of press.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Is there anything preventing the board from bringing to the selectmen the conduct of Mr. Pestovich?
Just ask that again, please.
We filed a petition back as a group back in August of 2023. Is there anything stopping the board from referring Mr. Pestovich to the select board for a disciplinary hearing for everything that he's been doing? Can the board as a whole do that?
So the board would have to take a vote to do that.
Executive session.
Because I feel, at this point, I feel he's pretty much obligated to do that with everything that he's doing. It's, you know, attacking tenants, which goes totally against the formal warning. I mean, his behavior defined by the select board is both on duty and off duty, and he's calling people bitter, spiteful hags on public forum. It goes directly against the formal warning he was giving, so he should be brought back in front of the select board.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I ask just, Mr. Pestovich, I just want to, this is actually a fair question, because we've been.
Maybe he could look at you.
I'm not, this isn't a negative thing, but I mean, I've worked for a lot of large companies in the past, professionals. I don't understand why at town meetings, I mean, we've been at town meetings together for many years. I just don't know why you can't just be more respectful. Make the residents here feel like they're,
He doesn't
you know,
care.
be more respectful. Be more respectful to James. I don't know why you have to be like this. It's just, you have this reputation around town. You have for a long time. I know you have your own group of people that support you. That's wonderful, but honestly, a lot of people are worried that you're on this board. And if you could just tone it down and just actually be professional, it would make a huge difference. And I think that's all they're asking.
May I find out who's speaking?
It's Eleanor Eastwood.
Eleanor Eastwood, thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak. if I could.
May I ask you to? Reference to?
Yes.
Okay. Hold off on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mary. Is that okay? Or is that all right if I ask the question?
Sure.
I've seen the podcasts, I've heard different things with my own ears, but I had not seen that comment on social media. I wanted to find out, is that true? The comment about one of the residents here.
And it's on.
I'm not questioning it, I just have not seen it,
So
so
are you asking,
I think I would like to know from Commissioner Pesovich if that was,
do you want to
Posted.
respond to that?
Right there.
Failing to serve
Got it.
the public.
God, you are a coward.
yeah.
Commissioner doesn't want to respond to that?
On his own mouth.
Legend in his own mind.
Please let the record reflect that the chairman is passing around something from some source. We don't know.
Shall I read it?
It's up to you if you want to.
I don't know, this is the
I
first
heard
I'm
it.
seeing this, and it bothers me quite a
I
bit,
want you to wait.
because I have, this is,
It bothers you, imagine.
I would
If-
prefer that-
imagine how I
would
felt.
prefer that it not be read.
I agree, because for the only reason that it should not be repeated.
Imagine how I felt.
I cannot understand. I could try to understand, but,
But maybe, excuse
Not
me,
professional.
the argument also, it can be that it needs to be an official record of this board meeting, to
It
have
is.
that on file.
It is.
So it's my understanding that a resident provided this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you please, is there someone who wants to identify themselves as providing it?
I did.
And do you want to make that part of the minutes?
Yes, please. Thank you.
And I'd just like to express my objection to adding this piling on and allowing people just to throw undocumented, unsubstantiated, unexplained.
But that's what
out
you
of-
do.
Out of context information, so my objection should be made.
You do that on, you do that on TV all the time.
Okay, let's hold the
My
comment.
objection
please.
that you're letting this go, Mr. Chairman, I'm getting piled on for no reason.
No reason?
For no reason. Maybe in certain people's.
The commissioner is speaking, so please let him speak.
That's all. I'm just expressing my objection. I'm not responding to any of this stuff, and because I don't have to, and it's not warranted, and it's out of context. So my objection's been noted, I hope. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
If the resident wants to make this part of the minutes to basically verify what she was saying, then I'll allow that to be made part of the minutes.
Yes, please.
And I'm objecting.
Okay,
That's fine. Because it's got nothing to do with the work here.
It's absolutely
All
done.
right, we're going to go on to item number 12. Any other business not anticipated by the chairperson 48 hours in advance of the posted meeting. I did receive an email from Commissioner Pasevich about an open meeting violation, and therefore I'd like to discuss that at this meeting. And I understand that, Rick, you have some information that you would like to pass out about that, and provide a copy to each of the board members. Please do so.
This is a copy, this is a response letter to your open meeting law violation, and I have back that goes along with it, so here we go. We'll do it one at a time here. Helen's not here, but I'll set one there. And Colleen, just set it over here.
She's got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Rick, would you mind just coming up?
Yeah, sure.
You could,
Sure. Want me to sit in Helen so I can turn this
that
around?
would be great.
That's it. I'm not Helen Bennett.
You know Helen Bennett.
Okay. Mr. Pesovich, Commissioner Pesovich, this is the formal notification response letter, but if you'd like, I'd mail this as well.
Could I interrupt you?
Sure.
Just explain to the remaining board members of what actually occurred first and why this response is being given.
Sure. Commissioner Pesovich filed an open meeting law complaint to basically state that we did not follow the Massachusetts regulations governing open meeting law as it applies to the fiscal year 2025 annual plan that we reviewed in the
April.
April meeting, right. In the April meeting, and also had some concerns regarding the outreach. I think earlier you had talked a little bit about outreach. And so I put together by law, we have to respond to that complaint, that open meeting law complaint to the Attorney General's office. But before that, we discuss it. So that's what this is a discussion of Commissioner Peskovich's concerns, and to that end, I put together a response letter.
And could I interrupt you for a moment? To correct me if I'm wrong, but we have to respond within a certain number of days.
That's correct. We have to respond and discuss the what Commissioner Pasevich calls out as remedial action that he's looking for. And we have to do that within 14 business days. I had filed for an extension with the Attorney General just to make sure that we have enough time to discuss it properly, and discuss potential, if any, remedial action, which I don't think is necessary, but so that good?
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we're discussing it today at the board meeting, so all the commissioners understand, what violation, Mr. Commissioner Pasevich has indicated that we violated a particular law. We want to discuss it in an open meeting, and we didn't want to do it today, and that's why I put it under this particular item.
Thank you. Are there any questions before I? Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Sure.
When was this open meeting law filed?
You mean the complaint?
Yeah.
It was filed on April 30th, and we received it on May 1st.
I didn't see it on the Attorney General's website under open meeting law.
I don't believe, Commissioner Peskovich, did you file with the Attorney General already, or just?
No, under the open meeting law.
Correct, right.
I'm to file it with the board. That's
First,
addressed,
okay.
Yeah.
And with the town clerk.
Okay, yeah.
And then the board has to meet within, I think, 14 days.
That's right.
To discuss the matter and how to address it.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, it
So
hasn't
this letter, apparently you produced a letter, okay, before meeting with the board, all right? And now I think the way I'm understanding it is you're gonna, vote to adopt this letter and send it in? I don't know what procedure you're following, but my understanding is that when a complaint is filed, the board has to meet within 14 days and then decide what to do and designate how or who to respond to.
That's my understanding.
So you've already gone ahead and done it.
Well, this is,
It was at my suggestion
Okay,
that in order to meet the 14-day,
and I heard an extension was filed for, is that what you just said?
an extension to respond.
Right,
Yeah.
to the Attorney General.
And, no, extension to respond to you, an extension to the 14-day
But
period.
the response goes to the Attorney General.
Ultimate formal response, right.
Right.
Okay.
So go ahead, continue, whatever you want to do.
We're just, we want to respond to you so that we can discuss this as you requested. That's,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's part of the process. You can't respond to me directly right now and then expect me to respond to you. It has to go through the AG. But do what you want to do, go ahead. If something is off the rails or incorrect, then we'll adjust it.
sure.
Do what you want to do.
So, the letter says, Dear Mr. Pasevich, in response to your open meeting law complaint dated April 30th, 2024, and received by us on May 1st, 2024, the following is a summary of the matter as we understand it. Number one, you specifically allege that the public hearing was not advertised as a public hearing must be, period. Number two, you think remedial action is necessary and seek remedial action as follows. Item A, advertise the public hearing properly. Item B, complete all sections of the annual plan that were not complete at the time of the April 2nd meeting, period. And item C, conduct a new public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 annual plan. Regarding number 1 above, I'm not sure why you think that the public hearing was not advertised as it must be. Below are the sequence of events that we executed for the annual plan that show our due diligence. So there's an annual plan sequence of events. The local tenant organization, LTO, review meeting was posted in the community room of T-Rock Gardens on January 17th, 2024. That is not an open meeting. The local tenant organization review meeting was held on January 30th, 2024 at T-Rock Gardens. Again, not an open meeting. The local tenant organization comments were entered into the draft annual plan on January 31st, 2024. The draft annual plan was posted for public availability on, there's a website, tinyurl.com, LHA Mass Annual Plan, per EOHLC Annual Plan Software System. The 45-day public notice requirement per Massachusetts 760 Code of Mass Regulations, 4.16.6A and 6B. The annual plan public hearing notice was posted in the Coastal Mariner newspaper in Marshfield on February 8th, 2024, and there is an attachment to that. The annual plan public hearing notice was posted on the Local Housing Authority, the Marshfield Housing Authority website on February 7th, 2024. There's an attachment there to back that up. The annual plan public hearing notice was posted on the LHA informational kiosk, which is right out in the lobby, on February 7th, 2024. Again, all of these were at least 45 days, or more than 45 days in advance. The annual plan public hearing notice in 8 languages, and there's a copy of it in all 8 languages in here. It was posted in the community areas of both T-Rock Gardens and Grace Ryder. 2 copies of the entire plan, which is 96, almost 100 pages long, were printed out and placed in each community area on February 8th, 2024. The annual plan public hearing notice, again in 8 languages, was posted in the management office of T-Rock Gardens, and a copy of the entire plan was printed out and hung in the management office. The annual plan public hearing notice was copied to the local tenant organization on January 31st, 2024. The annual plan public hearing notice was sent to the town clerk for posting and posted on the town bulletin board on February 7th, 2024. Based on the content of the public hearing notice and based on meeting the notification requirements of 760 CMR 4.16.6A and 6B, we do not believe there was any violation of the open meeting law and that the public hearing was advertised properly and sufficiently to meet the law. To this end, we feel that no remedial action is necessary. We request that you reconsider your request for action in the interest of the Marshfield Housing Authority. New paragraph. Regarding your concern about how the Housing Authority conducts outreach and interacts with the broader Marshfield community, every Marshfield Housing Authority board meeting is a public meeting. All are welcome, and constructive feedback and dialogue is always welcome. There is and always has been an open invitation for any member of the public to come to the meeting. In addition, we discussed the annual plan meeting with the local tenant organization and asked them to discuss with residents and their networks to obtain feedback. I think earlier Helen had mentioned that she was discussing things with a couple of the other networks that she has out in the community. Given the fact that the public hearing is advertised in the local newspaper, at the town of Marshfield, on the Marshfield Housing Authority website, on the Marshfield Housing Authority electronic kiosk in the community room, and locally in the community rooms at each development and in the management office, we're open to suggestions for additional outreach that can be accomplished within the Marshfield Housing Authority's limited operating budget without strain. Some additional outreach that might be possible are as follows. We could put reminders on board meeting agendas regarding upcoming annual plan public hearings, starting with February's meeting. The EOHLC process starts in January, so it's a process that requires a lot of advanced scheduling. So we could certainly start to put reminders, and get the word out. We could conduct an additional resident and general public annual plan review meeting. We could advertise and post that as, via open meeting law. I would want to post that at least a week in advance. That doesn't have the same notification requirements. It's in addition. We could incorporate a summary fact sheet in the new resident services guide that talks about the annual plan, because I think we're on our, like 8th or 9th or 10th annual plan since the inception of the process. Incorporate, I just said that. Include reminders and periodic resident announcements to kind of spread the word. New paragraph. So at that point, that's the closes of what I can think of that we can do as additional outreach. Last paragraph, I guess, regarding number 2 above, and number 2 above was 2B. I made an error there in the 2B was complete all sections of the annual plan that were not complete at the time of the April 2nd meeting. So regarding number 2, the annual plan content was fully compiled. There was no content missing or incomplete. During the public hearing, when the entire annual plan was reviewed page by page, there were some questions regarding formatting and content, and those were addressed in a response support document that was uploaded to EOHLC's annual plan software system when the annual plan was submitted to them. If you believe there were sections that were incomplete, please identify the ones that were incomplete and how they were incomplete, and we can review this hopefully tonight in the 5/13/24 in our board meeting. We look forward to reviewing this matter with you and believe that we can have a healthy discussion regarding continual improvement. And there is a document that I uploaded into that annual plan that's attached here. So all the backup is here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I guess you guys are gonna have to vote on this, number 1. And number 2, this is my first time seeing this, and what I'm hearing, I like it. It's very good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we do have a deadline to meet. Can we get a commitment from you as to when you will respond to this letter?
Well, after I review it, I will let you know. But I can't tell you because there's a lot of material here. And then some things I can see here that are questionable that I have to verify. But typically the process is the Attorney General is going to look at it now. And that's how it goes. And then they'll make a determination and ask me for input.
But I think...
No, I appreciate it, but my reaction, I really appreciate you addressing the issue on outreach.
So
That's critical to the whole reason why we're here and why I'm here personally and why we're all here as board members, not just personally, but as an elected official. And I think this is great. I appreciate it. Well, we'll put into that, and I think the purposes are being served. But as far as you guys voting on it, which I think you're supposed to do, you don't need to wait for me. But if this is going to be submitted to the Attorney General, then you just need to vote to approve it to send it in.
But I think part of the request was whether or not you would withdraw.
Oh, no, I want the Attorney General to get this and give their input, because they could be 100% on your side. They might point out a few things. So there may be some legal questions. That's what they do. I'm not making a comment on how this goes or if I'm in favor or against it. I appreciate it. But it's up to them now, and they'll tell everybody that they agree with you. Or they say, well, we agree with you, but it could go any of those ways, and that's fine. But the purpose, and just as a maybe editorial comment, the purpose of the law, right, and what we're charged to do, and how we're supposed to behave, because as board members, we, just a general comment, we all go through training to be a board member. You have to go through training. And you're told you need to be familiar with state ethics law. You need to be familiar with open meeting law. We all have to sign a document saying we received and understand the open meeting law. And without the process, nothing in your government makes any sense. Without open meeting law, without ethics laws, without the process, then why do you even bother voting? Why not just appoint a dictator? So that's what we all do. I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution of the Commonwealth. And I completed all the training. I was told what this job entails and what my fiduciary responsibilities are. And that I'd have a fiduciary responsibility. And that is to uphold the laws and the regulations and to, that's it. And if somebody has an opinion and you want to say something specifically that has been violated by any member, everybody's entitled to free speech. You can express your opinions any way you want. You can call somebody a name, or you can, whatever you want to say. It's free speech, First Amendment rights. And the reason why we have a First Amendment is because we're always going to hear something offensive to us.
Slander is what you say.
So I would suggest that, you handle it, Terry, other chairman.
Go ahead. Rick, can I ask, how many man hours went into preparing this document? And could you give us a estimated cost to the housing authority?
I don't know, at least 10. Yeah. I mean, it was cut up between many other tasks throughout the days, but yeah, it was not efficient, let's put it that way.
Okay. And any idea what the cost was, man-hour cost?
Oh, well.
Yeah, you'd have to calculate.
Yeah, I'd have to calculate it, and, paper cost is not much, but, I mean.
And is this something we could have dealt with as a board,
Yeah.
rather than making a complaint?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Well,
Please.
No, that's a good point.
well, I think that's what we're asking, basically, of Commissioner Pusey to.
My other, the meeting law is very important, and compliance is important, but frivolous process is also costly, because I've been on the other end of it in my time in government. So in this complaint, it was made on behalf of the board. You mentioned you're a board member in the complaint. I think that's a violation of the ethics. A board member should not be acting unilaterally. Identify yourself as a board member in the complaint.
Well, I don't remember.
So that's a violation of the ethics law.
Well, then you should go call ethics. Go ahead.
Well, we don't want to do that.
We want to be litigious.
You're just fueling the fire now. You're creating more problems by citing personal cost. The cost is not relevant.
It's relevant.
It is not relevant.
Are you
Every time somebody files a public records, every time somebody files a public records request,
unnecessarily,
a public records request or an open meeting law complaint, cost does not enter into it. If you want to engage in civil litigation, cost does not enter into it.
It does not enter into it from the point of a private citizen. From the point of a board member with a fiduciary responsibility to the board you're overseeing, if you're making a frivolous complaint that's costing the housing authority money, you're acting against the interests of your own board.
Thank you for your opinion.
And that is my opinion.
For the record, this is the second one.
When it could have been,
Mr. Chairman, if the executive director wants to bring up a previous open meeting law complaint, put it on the agenda, please, and I would be happy.
I actually want to bring up a lot of items.
To
I'd
address
like to do
it,
so now.
but it's not part of this, that's old history.
Okay, so let's.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I don't like your tone towards.
And I don't like your
I
tone.
don't like your aggressiveness.
And I don't like your aggressiveness.
Well, I'm sleeping, I vote for you.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, that's right, and you tried to have me removed.
Commissioner.
I've got it.
No, I tried to have you removed.
You contacted the town administrator to ask about how to remove me.
I'm asking you
Oh,
to
my God.
not comment right now.
God help
Thank
us.
Exactly.
Okay, so we as a board have asked Commissioner Pacevic whether or not he will withdraw his, I'm going to say, his request to the Attorney General to review whether or not we violated the open meeting law. If I'm correct, Commissioner, you've said no, you don't want to do that. You want to review this first, which is fine.
Right.
I've asked that you get back to us within a certain amount of time so that we meet all of the requirements of the open meeting law violation. You have said that you will get back to us, but you haven't given me a date. So I will ask that the Board of Commissioners vote on whether or not we will accept the May 13th, 2024 letter addressed to Mr. Pacevic and written by James Maracas, our Executive Director, with one modification that, Rick, you mentioned as you were reading this letter.
Oh, yeah,
There
it was
needs to
on,
be one modification in that.
yeah, I will make the modification, and I will mail this letter tomorrow. The modification was on the third page, and I said regarding number 2, I should have said regarding number 2B, item 2 sub B.
Okay.
Okay?
So I'll make a motion that we accept the May 13th, 2024 letter written by Executive Director James Maracas to Mr. Joseph Pacevic, as written with one modification, section 2B.
And you submit it to the Attorney General. As according to the open meeting law, you have to submit this response to the
Right.
AG.
Yeah, right, has to go.
May I have a second?
Can I amend that we accept and that we find that this is a sufficient response?
If you're voting to send this to the Attorney General, that's what you would be doing. But I'm going to be quiet because obviously I'm not going to vote on this. I'm going to abstain, but I should shut up.
Does anybody want to second the amendment to my motion?
Does that include, can you repeat that again with,
Okay,
because that comment kind of threw me for,
So I will make a motion to accept this response as a valid justification and find that there was no violation of the public meeting law. That's as
with the amendment as to be, as noted.
yes.
Yes.
Would you please read back that motion to us?
Okay. Motion to accept and submit, finding this as a valid response with no violation of open meeting law, with the amendment of the 2B.
So that would be our recommendation to the Attorney
And I second that.
So you'll second
I
that?
will second that.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Delgado,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacevic,
Abstain.
Commissioner Daly,
Yes.
and Commissioner Richardson.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Before we go to the Executive Director's report, I'd just like to have one moment with the Commissioner. Would you mind meeting with James and myself after the meeting?
I can't today.
Can you give me some times when you can? Sometime. Could you send me something in writing so I can then coordinate with you? That's so very good. Joe's not able to meet after this meeting, but he's going to send me something in writing sometime. Sure. Yeah, we have your report, please.
Sure.
as you heard earlier, the refrigerators were delivered to the tenants. Grace Rider unit number 16, the vacancy has been completed. The snow equipment has been serviced and stored away for the winter. The lawn equipment has been serviced and is ready for the cutting season. We had a pre-construction meeting for the envelope project at 231 Caswell Street and 635 Ocean Street. The tie-in is complete for all the buildings here at T-Rock Gardens, and the old system is backfilled. 305 Webster Street, the damage has now been completed regarding the tree falling on the house. We were fortunate enough to receive a donation of a household full of furniture and provided the folks with all new furniture when they moved in. Water conduit to the rotary has been run for future use. Our new laborer, Scott Wagner, has begun working, and he's working out well. The shower project is back in progress. We have 1.5 buildings left to complete to replace all the shower valves throughout T-Rock Gardens. We sent the old truck in for work, replacing the ball joints, front bumper, and anything that needed to make it safe for the road. We did the delivery of the Greater Boston Food Bank. We have 2 new vacancies, Unit 11D and Unit 14 at Grace Rider. We did print and distribute to all of the tenants a new Marshfield Housing Authority resource guide for all of the residents of Marshfield. We can pass this down. Ellie did some great work on this. Thank you, Ellie.
I know the executive director would like to also make some other comments, and I asked that he do so now.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
The donation of furniture, who donated that?
I don't know if they want their name known. I'll ask them.
If it's to a state-operated or government entity,
I will ask.
It has to be disclosed.
I will ask them.
I believe it has to be disclosed.
I will ask them.
God, you really don't like us.
I'll ask you and I'll provide you with that information.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce several folks that we have here tonight with us. You have John Murray, who's our Director of Finance. You have Rick Roulard, who's our Director of Modernization. You have Tammy, who works in the administrative offices. Ellie, who works in tenant services. Colleen, who's the Assistant Executive Director of Managed Agencies. Terry, who's my administrative assistant. And John Kemet, who's the lead maintenance person here at the Marshfield Housing Authority. You have an enormous amount of staff for a very, very small agency. This staff has put in countless hours responding to these requests from Mr. Pesovich. But I really want to take a moment to address some of the most recent comments and actions that have come to my attention. It has come to my attention that there are comments that have been made in public forums that appear to be disparaging towards my role as the executive director, my staff members, and other board members, as well as now a resident of T-Rock Gardens, made by Mr. Pestovich. And I'd like to first begin by playing this for you. It's 1 minute long, so it shouldn't take very long.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to again express my objection to introduction of information that is just designed to inflame and incite people.
Hey, Joe, shut up.
Mr. Chairman, I'm being told to shut up by people in the audience.
Yeah, shut up.
Quiet, please.
Thank you.
Orchestrated the transfer of the money, and by the way, the documents that his wife submitted to the bank in order to effectuate the transfer of money. And even the guy from Quincy was like, yeah, sure, Mike, yeah, where did I write the check to? What the hell is he doing with my hands on that money? That's not his job. He's a day-to-day manager of the housing authority facilities. What's he got to do with taking the housing money, send it to the custody of the housing authority? It's totally outside of his realm. Totally. He likes to think that the housing authority is something like King Louis of France. You know, I am the government does me, you know. But that's the kind of attitude this guy's have.
As someone who is deeply committed to the success and reputation of our organization, I am naturally concerned when there are perceptions and accusations that undermine our collective efforts. Open communication and mutual respect are essential to the shared goals, and it is crucial that any concerns or criticisms are addressed through appropriate channels and with the spirit of constructive dialogue. Public forums are not the appropriate venue for such discussions, as they potentially harm the trust and confidence of the residents in the community. As a board member, your role is critical in upholding the values and standards of our organization. Respect, professionalism, and integrity are core principles that guide our communication, both within our organization and the community that we serve. Any behavior that contradicts these principles not only undermines our missions, but it damages the trust and reputation that we have worked to improve. I urge you to reflect on your actions and consider the impact that they have on our organization and our residents. Moving forward, I would expect that all interactions be conducted with professionalism, courtesy, and respect from all board members and all staff. I have a legal obligation to protect the employees of this housing authority, as well as you, as a board member, have a legal authority to me, who is an employee of yours. Joe, I am very concerned as an employee of the Board of Commissioners to continue to feel stress and mistreatment from your public criticism. You recently compared me to King Louis of France and suggested that I transferred the money back to the town as some coordinated effort with the town manager, and did so without the authority and knowledge of the board. We all know this is not true. The issue was deliberated countless times by the Board of Commissioners, the town, and the Housing Trust. In fact, I took my own personal time to appear before the Housing Trust Board to explain the many issues of why the Housing Authority Trust money should not have been held by the Housing Authority. You went further to suggest that I hired Tammy as a favor back to the town manager. Another totally untrue statement. Tammy was hired because she was the best candidate for the job. And by the way, you do an outstanding job. I was totally unaware of any relationships that Tammy had or her children had with the town of Marshfield or the town manager. I have no knowledge of any personal relationship with her family and anybody from the town of Marshfield. You have made countless digs at Ellie and the job that she does at the Marshfield Housing Authority, and attempted numerous times to get involved in daily operations despite being informed numerous times that this is not the role of a board member. Are you videotaping me with your phone?
Yes, I am. I'm recording this.
I believe it's being recorded
Yeah,
over
but it's
here.
running out. It's running out, so I'm going to supplement this onto that tape.
Okay. Mr. Chairman,
It's for the same purpose.
I object to this.
It's for the same
I object.